a direction that's not going to be helpful for them.
Yeah,
that's one thing. Okay?
Yeah, that KLT factor, know, like, and trust factor is so powerful, and it's not easy to come by because it's multifaceted once again. But first of all, you got to reach out and say hi, whether it's face to face, whether it's begins with a like on Facebook or a connection on LinkedIn. You've got to begin the conversation and then let nature take its course. You're so right.
And I loved how I mentioned, so many individuals get so hung up about not really doing anything with their marketing because they feel they need to have that website first, and they don't want to let people know about them until they get that website done and it's perfect. So they are missing so many opportunities. And I've done that. I mean, we've been piecemealing our website now for 4 years? Pretty much. I mean, we just are constantly changing it up and doing it. We're not focused on having that website done completely yet because it should never be complete. It should always be evolving. But we've been focusing more on engaging and having those conversations by being in front of people, doing workshops, participating in events like this one, as well as social media.
And as you mentioned before, and we started your show, everyone's on the internet. And Barbara, who's going to be doing our My Google Business Page seminar, she starts with the research that's been done. The people that are referring you and helping you get business, when they give your name, the next step that potential prospect takes is to go to the internet to find out more about you.
Mm-hmm.
Before they ever even pick up the phone and say, hey, tell me more about, Randy, I got a referral from so-and-so. I heard you could probably help me out. They've already been to the internet. They've already seen what you can and cannot do. They've already made a decision in their head whether or not they're going to go the next step, or they're just calling to be polite because they said they would.
But you're so right. They already know more about you than you think.
Yeah. But your presence needs to be clear and accurate on what you're doing and your availability. And then beyond that, you start getting testimonials. If you're an independent salesperson, if you're in sales at all, whether you own your own business or you're working for another company, you are that salesperson. So you should have your own page out there. There may be compliance issues if you're working in insurance or real estate or law or any of these other places. Work through those compliance issues. I've talked to clients, I got these compliance issues. And I'm like, well, what are they? Well, I'm not sure. Like, well, how do you ever expect to get past that if you don't ask the question? What's the compliance issue? What can you say? What can't you say? Get out there. Otherwise, you're losing it. You're missing out on business.
Absolutely so. And I had an interesting conversation a few years back with an attorney within the healthcare industry. Not from a compliance, it's not that far off from real estate and some other things that are out there. But my conversations that I couldn't get this attorney to understand was, if you're talking about business on Facebook, on even though it's on your business page, that's the last thing they want to hear about. And like Cheri said, they have to get to know you first. Nothing else matters. If they don't know you, and if they don't have at least the beginning seeds of wanting to hear more, it really, you haven't gone anywhere.
Right.
So where should a business that's just starting out begin? I mean, what marketing strategy would you recommend they use?
I would, as we mentioned a couple of times, they need to start with who is their ideal client. And if they say everybody, I would ask, pick one of those people and really define who that person is.
When you say, excuse me for interrupting, what are some of the steps in there that somebody would go through on getting to know that person, or what a couple of questions they really need to get that person to answer?
Well, I like this one. First see who you've sold in the past. Meaning who's bought your products or services in the past. If you're a startup starting in the new, an established industry, but you're a new player in that industry, just look at what kind of clients are buying in that industry. If you're a brand new startup, well, then that's going to be an experiment. That's a whole different discussion on a different day to talk about how do I find a client for my startup, and I don't know who my client is yet. But, so start with, who's currently buying, and then just say, okay, is it a man or a woman? How old are they? What kind of house do they live in? How many kids do they have? Do they have a dog? Do they not have a dog? Most importantly, what keeps them up at night?
Ooh,
and
I like
prevents
that.
them from getting sleep? And then once you have that question answered, what is keeping them up at night? What is stopping them from getting a good night's rest? And it could be for a father, being a dad, my biggest concern is my kids, are they safe? Are they protected? Are they provided for if something were to happen to me? And if there's anything in that world that is not stable, then that's one of the things that's keeping me up at night. So for a company to recognize that, it's like, okay, what's keeping Randy up at night? Something that's going to affect his kids. So when they position a product or service in front of me, and they start talking about my kids, I'm listening. Mm-hmm. All right, what is it about my kids that you can help me with, And that's when I start to pay attention. But if you start bringing in other things like, okay, Randy, we got this great golf vacation for you. If it doesn't involve my kids, I'm not paying attention. I'm checking out right away. But that's just Randy. But there's lots of Randys out there that may fit that mold. So don't watch them up at night. That's probably the first question they have to ask. And then once you know that question, here's the one. You say, okay, if I put a gun to your head and you had to sell that thing in 1 minute, what would you say? Then they start saying, okay, what do I have to say or else I'm going to pull the trigger and you're no longer going to be on this earth. Then you start thinking real quick, what do I have to say to sell this product or service? And it's like, okay, you get down to the heart of the matter. What is it going to take for me to sell Randy? And I've only got 1 minute to do it. And actually he's listening because I'm talking about his kids. Okay, what's next? What do you say? And then that gets down to your real, value proposition, whatever, terminology you want to use, that pain point. Now you're starting to solve problems. Does that make sense?
All of it makes sense. And it, again, it can seem overwhelming. And that's why, there are people out there to help you. And for those that are listening today, make sure you go to the Space Coast Marketing Mania and take a look at the different programs that Randy's been sharing, because all of this, there are going to be experts that day. And I know Randy's going to be starting off at the very start of the whole seminar that day and really getting you to think through those questions right there, because without that, you don't know what the next step is.
Absolutely.
No, because if you don't incorporate those into your website, into your blog, into almost everything on the internet, Google is useless because Google can't find you. And if Google can't find you, there's nobody else that's going to find you.
And that's the truth.
So if a business has been in business, or a person's been in business for a while, are any of these strategies better than others?
That's where you get to take, and what you've been selling, who's been buying, and then it's really you want to take your business to the next level. So you already have revenue coming in, and now you just want to put this revenue stream on steroids and really grow it. And that's where social media starts to come into play, because now you get to tell your story. You know what questions need to be answered in social media. And you can work with an expert like, Cheri and Richard to understand, how do I put this in front of people on the appropriate social media platform? We're going to be talking about LinkedIn because that's the professional social network that's out there, but there's so many other platforms, and which one is best for you kind of depends. Mm-hmm. And if you've been in place and been in business for a while and you've kind of plateaued on your revenue, now it's like, okay, how do I do more growth? What's my next marketing strategy? Next is to tell your story. Tell your story in regards to why you're successful. Tell your story into why customers come to you. Tell your testimonials. Make yourself real as a person, which you can do with social media, and then take it to social media. That's what I would say for a business that's been there for a while. They really need to look at the social media platforms and tweaking their other online presence, such as their Google My Business page, their own website, and their advertising and traffic generators that are driving people into those funnels. Do they even have a funnel? Mm-hmm. If you're going to spend money on advertising, how do you know you're going to get ROI? Are you tracking phone calls coming in from an ad? You spend money on an ad and you've got a phone number that's your normal phone number. How do you know if it's the ad or if it's the phone number that they've always been calling? So there's things that you want to put in there, that ROI measurement side. So that would be my next step I would offer is that, are you tracking? How are you tracking? Can you actually tie revenue to a specific marketing strategy that's working, or an advertisement that's driving customers into your business? Do you know which ones are working and which ones aren't? And so we'll talk a little bit about that as well, as how do we track ROI on advertising or marketing overall. You may get advertising where they opt in for a lead generator, but then you never get to the core offer because they're opting out. Well, if you're tracking, you know which email they're opting out on. You know which email's not working, so you can stop doing that. And do something else, do something different. And if you don't have the tracking in place, you can't make those kind of changes. You can't make them at all.
So basically, at each one of these capture points or decision points, we have to tell a better story.
Right. We have to show value. Why? What's the next step? If you're going to present that core offer, what's going to make them write you a bigger check? You ask for $1, what's going to make them give you 10? And there's more value to be offered there. You got to show it. You got to prove it.
Yeah. So in order to get that initial $1, we have to tell a story that's going to interest them. And that is where we have to have a link back to knowing who your ideal customer is. And that ideal customer allows you to tell that story and make it sound like, correct me if I'm wrong in here, just jump in, connect it to them where they feel personally like I'm speaking directly to them.
Right. Using myself as an example, as a father, biggest concern is my kids, the safety of my kids. If you position your product or service in that light, where, Randy, if you invest with us in this particular service, it's going to help your kids get bop, 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 bop. Awesome, that's great. Your kids are now 14, your oldest son, he's a teenager. You're probably concerned about social media and how it's affecting him as a son, and his growth and all these other things. If you invest in our service, we're going to be able to protect him from all the bad things happening in social media that we hear the bad things about. Okay, now I'm listening, versus we can help track everything that's going on in social media. And there's a lot of stuff going on out there. What does that mean to me?
Keep those kids protected. So totally understand that. I know we've done that. We have given parents only a form where they can go see the net lingo that their children may be texting, and so that they can understand what that net lingo means, and it has shocked a lot of parents. So yes, I could relate with that very well. Keep them safe. And I was thinking when you mentioned that, like yourself, is perfect for a life insurance person to talk with you about, thinking of how you can protect your family if you go away, as well as, security alarm system for your home. So those are the things I really relate to when I'm, in sales, when I listen to a salesperson asking those right questions, making sure that they are finding out what the problem or the pain is so that they can show them the solution.
And that's when you know you're dealing with a professional salesperson. Mm-hmm. They're trying to help you, not just sell you. Mm-hmm. And that's what you want to do with your marketing strategies. Position yourself as a solutions provider, not a seller of stuff. And your marketing gives them information on their own, and then by the time they're ready to invest, they now have the budget to invest, or they're now motivated by some problem that needs to get solved. You're the person that's been the solution provider the entire time, where you're the only person they think about. Mm-hmm. And although price is a consideration, it's not the true value of what you're providing. You may be a little more expensive than the competitor, but you've already given them so much value that they could never put a price tag on, that they're willing to go ahead and go that next level with you. And most of us understand our cost, and most of our costs are pretty competitive within our market. So, what's a few, 10% more if you've been giving them value, versus somebody who's just saying, okay, I'm the cheapest guy on price. I'm the cheapest guy ever to do AC work. It's like, yeah, well, you get what you pay for.
And most people are getting pretty smart on those games that are being played out there today.
And also as a professional, I know that if you can make it all about the money and not about make it client focused, you're not going to be in the business for very long.
Right.
You have to have that. I mean, I liked how you say, you say failure is an option attitude, and I always say, have a servitude attitude as well. And that will help you then attract the right individuals to you so that you can show them your solution and help them with the situation that they're dealing with. So awesome, great stuff. And I know that at the Space Coast Marketing Mania, with the different presenters that are going to be there, most of them are going to be talking about the strategy and such, and different marketing topics. But I know that you have the very last seminar that day is going to be on growing your business with special events. And you've touched a little bit about that today, but is there something that is going to be so unique.